Late night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel has been taken off the air indefinitely after the comedian made comments relating to the murder of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. During a monologue on Jimmy Kimmel Live, he suggested that Tyler Robinson, the suspect charged with Kirk's shooting, may have been a pro-Trump Republican, among other comments. The response from the American broadcasting company was swift, with US President Donald Trump calling the cancellation great news. Let's speak to Conor Fitzpatrick, supervising senior attorney at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, who joins us now from Washington, D.C. Conor, really good to have you on the show tonight. Can you tell us what's your understanding of why Jimmy Kimmel was taken off air?
Well, it sure looks like Mr. Kimmel was taken off the air because the government wanted him off the air. Brendan Carr, the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, told ABC, the station that hosts Jimmy Kimmel, recently that we can do this the easy way or the hard way. That Mr. Carr was upset with the remarks that Mr. Kimmel had made about the Charlie Kirk assassination and who might have been responsible for it, and Carr was out for punishment. And it seems like that's what happened. And this is all happening against the backdrop of two ABC sort of affiliated companies that are seeking FCC approval for a merger. And they need Chairman Carr and the FCC's approval for that to go through. So what we have here is what appears to be a flagrant case of jawboning, where the government is attempting to enforce restrictions on speech and using the threat of government retaliation if those threats aren't followed.
So, Conor, does it amount to censorship then? What does it say about freedom of speech in the US right now at this moment under this presidency?
Freedom of speech is in peril in the United States of America right now. Now, make no mistake about it. Our First Amendment has stood strong through tough tests in the past, and our First Amendment will see through in the future. But right now, we have a government that is gleefully using its and abusing its authority over the airwaves and against newspapers to try and control the message that outlets are able to report. We've seen it in Donald Trump's recent lawsuit against the New York Times, and we see it here in them forcing Jimmy Kimmel off the air. This is a very troubling and worrying approach to free speech, and as free speech advocates and as Americans, it's our responsibility to stand up and push back.
Where do you think comedians, satirists need to draw the line compared to, say, journalists when it comes to talking about sensitive issues that a lot of people are really talking about right now?
Well, our First Amendment means that there is no line. Our First Amendment forever forbids the government from trying to police taste. The fact that someone's speech, whether it's a news article or a comedian doing a stand-up routine, upsets someone is none of the government's business. If the government believes that a news station has reported something incorrectly or that a comedian's joke has upset someone, tough. That is not the government's place to interject itself into American freedom of speech and into the American media.
We've also seen Stephen Colbert's late night show cancelled. What was the reason behind that, and how unusual is it that the president gets involved in the airing of such shows?
It's very unusual, and we're seeing a lot of echoes with Jimmy Kimmel of what we saw with Stephen Colbert. Of course, when Stephen Colbert was forced off the air, there was a highly publicized merger that CBS's parent company Paramount was looking to accomplish at the time. And so history is repeating itself just a couple of months later. There's a major merger that needs FCC and government approval, and all of a sudden, another prominent late night host who has gotten on the president and this administration's nerves is forcing a prominent host off the air, likely in hopes that a merger will go through. It will take not only regular Americans, but it will take American media companies standing up for free speech and standing up for the First Amendment to get this to stop.
Well, the president's also criticised other late night show hosts, Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers. Could they be next? How concerned should the public be if they indeed are taken off air too?
We certainly hope that it will end here and that what's happened so far has been reversed, but I would be lying if I said it's not a concern. These are major companies that don't want to end up on the wrong side of the government. And we have a Federal Communications Commission that is supposed to, not only by the Constitution, but by federal law, be bound to principles of free speech. But they are betraying and abandoning those principles of free speech. So, to be clear, if a network makes a purely financial decision that a show is unprofitable and taking it off the air, the First Amendment doesn't have anything to say about that. What the First Amendment and principles of free speech do have something to say about is the government coming in and saying, hey, we don't like what this host is saying. It's a nice station you have there. It would be a shame if something were to happen to it. That's what's not okay.
Well, media institution Voice of America has also been in the firing line of this administration with criticisms. It's too radical, it's too anti-Trump. We even saw one of our own ABC Australia journalists recently told he was hurting Australia when he tried to ask Mr. Trump questions about his business interests. How are journalists and those in the media feeling about the reporting climate in the US at the moment?
I would say not nearly as positive as they were a year ago. The reporting climate right now in the United States is under a very dark shadow of, for example, the lawsuits that Mr. Trump has filed against ABC and against the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal for routine news reporting. And to be clear, these lawsuits, by all accounts, are junk. They have no legal merit. They are designed to scare the media away from reporting unfavorable facts about the President of the United States and from reporting unfavorable coverage. That's why these lawsuits are being filed. And with respect to Voice of America, that you mentioned, when the administration attacked Voice of America, we saw very similar themes. We saw attacks on the perceived anti-Trump bias of the reporters at Voice of America. So at every turn, what we're seeing from this administration is, though they like to go across the pond to Europe and preach the values of free speech, which they should, here at home, they are not practicing those values at all. They are using the levers of power to go after unfavorable reporting and unfavorable coverage and unfavorable hosts, and that's unacceptable.
Conor Fitzpatrick, really good to have you on the show tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.